Hello, my name is Omar Abasad. It is June 13, 2017, Tuesday at 4:51 p.m. in Toronto. So, I'm going to do a little blurb about community targeting and sexual enslavement today. And I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment here. So, this is the thermometer with a sensor attached. There you can see the attachment. So, I'm going to take this and I'm going to slip it underneath my arm, the left armpit, and I'm going to monitor my temperature as I talk. Because yesterday I started sneezing, and the sneezing was accompanied by burning sensations in my back and my chest, and tickling in my nose, and then I realized that my nose was running as well. So here is the initial temperature. So I'm gonna just keep that there for like 10 seconds to make sure it's picking up the right temperature. And it jumped. So I'm just gonna do a 2 minute, it's 1 minute, 20 seconds. And then I'm gonna start talking. Another increase. And it's 1 minute, 49 seconds. And it's coming up to 2 minutes. So that's a 2 minute mark. So um, I'm just going to hold this here, and we're going to track the temperature as I talk. So and see if it causes sneezing when the temperature jumps. Because I just had a sneezing fit. And you saw the temperature increased here. It's still increasing, 34.5. So as I said, I'm going to talk about sexual enslavement and community targeting. So there are some signs that would indicate sexual enslavement. So I went through some of them before. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about a few more signs that sexual enslavement is taking place. So let's see here. So I made some notes, which I'm checking as if you see my eyes go to the side here, that's because I'm checking my notes. So blacklisting from the job market. So how that happens is the person is set up to be reported on, and these reports criminalizes the person artificially. These are criminal reports. These are people signing affidavits lying, out and out lying, because you're a target. So you're allowed, people, perps are allowed to lie about you and get away with it. So lies are told about you, about things like you're stealing, you're running around naked, you're walking upstairs without underwear on, just to show the person coming in through the door, the person who was not in there in the house in the first place, you're behind. I'm sorry, I digress there. This is one of the things I was harassed with. I was supposed to have gone up a flight of stairs without any underwear on, with the robe, with my bathrobe, specifically to show somebody my behind. And just to explain that a little bit, I was staying at another relative's house, and I had gone upstairs to take a shower because the shower head was better upstairs. And I had my clothes downstairs in a drawer. And normally I would take my clothes up with me, but since there was absolutely no one in the house, I thought I'd come downstairs and change in the room that I was occupying at the time. So I changed my mind and I went back down to get my clothes with my bathrobe on. And somebody walked in to the house. and the stairs just happened to point directly to the front door. So he must have seen me with my bathrobe on. But definitely my bathrobe was almost to my knees. So I'm not quite sure about the claims that I was showing any part of my body to anybody. So lies. If this was reported, then it's a lie. It's just another indication of lying. So, anyways, blacklisting that's caused by reports that's made up of examples like I just said. The reports claim that you do all kinds of things that you didn't do, misinterpretations of everyday acts. So this report then travels with you and is released to the public, and of course employers know because you are a target, so everybody knows because information is flowing about you constantly. So you're unable to find work. So another indication of enslavement is constant name changes, and I think the way I was set up, and I'm looking at my temperature there, excuse me, and it's 34/7. And sure enough, there is a burning sensation, slight, not as much, but there is a subtle, but still discernible burning sensation in the back. And sure enough, the temperature went up. It's very interesting to see that the temperature above the 25.9, the room temperature also increased. Very interesting. So anyway, name changes. So as I indicated before, set up to be reported on, and these reports are submitted to some sort of authority, government authority, and maybe through the court system. I'm not quite sure. I heard the court as well, through the court as well. I'm being harassed with this. And every time these reports are submitted, it's registered back into the system because I'm set up in the system as someone who's mentally retarded and who needs help and probably a prostitute. Well, none of it is true. But anyways, when these reports are submitted, I'm registered under a different name. And these names are the people who are monitoring me. So name changes. So these name changes occur quite frequently, and if it occurs enough times and it's usurped, I heard my name is usurped in some sort of a courtroom hearing, then of course your true identity is disappeared, as they say. It's a public record disappearance, identity disappearance. So if you're going by a name and you just happen to be in a legal battle with someone or some sort of a legal scenario in which you need to go and search for your name, and then someone finds another name affiliated with yours, then all kinds of question marks, all kinds of questions, excuse me, are automatically asked. It causes doubt about your identity. So public disappearance. This I'm suspecting is a way of disappearing you publicly and putting you in the underground market for sexual slavery, selling and trading and so on. Name changes. The other one is taking away your passport, because slaves, any kind of slaves, do not have the ability to travel on their own, move around on their own, without asking the permission of the master. So slaves are not allowed to have passports. So I heard in one workplace that my passport was confiscated by someone. I heard that he asked the police to confiscate my passport. Whether it was or not, I'm not quite sure, but I definitely was harassed with it in the workplace. So passport confiscation, to render you immobile and not able to leave the country without you being questioned. So, and I am suspecting that this was done in my case. Um, Complaints, constant complaints filed about you by the public, um, which renders you vulnerable to the public, um, to the public's eyes. You're set up to be reported on, and the contents of the report is sent out to the public. And this gives the public the right to call the cops on you all the time. Control, it's a form of control. Because anywhere you go, um, suspicions are created. You're looked upon with a suspicious mind by anyone around you, everyone around you. Because remember, I am a target, so everybody knows the information that's been released. Information is actively being um, transferred back and forth in the community between people. And this is instantaneous. So it's a dynamic situation. So anywhere you go, you're going to be you're going to be driven out, basically. You're going to be harassed. You're going to be told that we don't want you here, right up front. You're this, you're that, you're whatever. We don't want you in the area. You don't belong in the area. We have to get rid of you, and we're going to get you removed. Another sign of sexual enslavement, degradation, harassment, constant reporting, because a slave has to be controlled and has to be brought back to the master. So the master, quote unquote, in my case, the way I'm set up, is the person whose name is on that account who brought me out of the system after being flagged to take responsibility for me and set himself up as a steward. And I believe this happened 5 years ago. And this person was passing me around and still was passing me around up to very recently. And I believe the contract changed hands recently. This is from the harassing comments I heard. So a slave is passed on from one master to another, and the master passes it around to his friends, family, and to anybody who wants to rent it out. So a slave, after all, is rented out. So that's the difference between prostitution and slavery. There is a period of time that you spend with your rented out pimp, John. You don't do a one night stand like prostitution, the industry, as it's done in the prostitution industry. It's you're rented out for a period of time. Um, so this is another indication of sexual enslavement. Another way of knowing or suspecting that sexual enslavement is going on is fraud. Circumstances are set up in a way that the slave, quote unquote, is defrauded of any assets that the slave owns. Because slaves are not supposed to own assets. They're not supposed to have anything in their name. Everything is supposed to be in their master's name. And in my case, I believe that's where my family comes in. I believe some members of my family had me declared mentally incapacitated based on fraudulent documentation, because I was not taken to any doctor or any courtroom. I was not a part of this process, and it was never disclosed to me. And I also believe that they're having me surveilled in the workplace, and people in the workplace are taking on the responsibility to surveil me on behalf of my family. And they're telling, the families telling the subcontracted monitor what to do. And I do believe that in a recent contract position, my property was conveyed into a trust. Now, if this was done, and I'm talking about it and exposing it, the documents probably was rescinded, because by now the family members who had taken part in this fraud would have realized that I know what's going on and no, I'm not mentally ill or incapacitated. And the person who did this would have realized that I know what's going on and probably rescinded the documents. However, If the documents were rescinded, then there is still going to be an audit trail left. Audit trail of communication, audit trail from the banks, and so on. So releasing the slave from ownership of their assets, this is another indication that sexual enslavement and slavery is taking place. And if you notice, the temperature is 35.1 and the room temperature is 26.6. Talk to you another time.